Hello, welcome back to the Dragon Plus live stream. I am your host, as always, Bart Carroll, and with me is Bill Benham.
Hi.
I'm already off my game because we're facing each other, which makes me wildly uncomfortable, no matter who it is.
Mr. Carroll, how do you answer the question?
See, I'm uncomfortable right now. Right now. I prefer side by side where I know there's someone next to me,
Yes.
but I don't have to look
This
in
feels
the eye.
very adversarial.
It does. And I'm
even
not,
though we are not,
yes.
we're not adversaries.
I'm not an adversarial type of guy. So, Bill Benham is here to talk through a little bit of Gardens of Fog. I know you were on Dragon Talk a couple of weeks ago, along with Dr. B and Hannah Rose, to talk through this fine adventure as well. But we wanted to not only talk a little bit about the adventure, but also some of the underlying design work that goes into it and into adventures in general. But before we do so, Bill Benham, you are at Bill Benham 2.
I am at Bill Benham 2 on Twitter. I don't know who Bill.Benham or, is it Bill.Benham or Bill Benham?
Bill Benham. That was my question.
Yeah, so I don't know who number 1 or no numeric designator Bill Benham are, but when I find him.
What about Ben Billum? Ben
Billum is my nom de guerre. That actually got dropped on me a lot.
Did it?
In like middle school?
Yeah.
Yeah. That and people just calling me Ben.
Oh.
Hey, Ben. No, it's Bill.
And where did Rude Pug come from? You're also your moniker of...
Yeah, so on Steam and pretty much everything else, I'm Rude Pug. That was born out of my love of pugs.
Yes.
I developed an affection for French bulldogs after that, so pretty much any dog with breathing problems is pretty cool in my book. But I have a pug. His name is Sancho. Sancho Panza is actually his full name. He is named after Don Quixote's chubby practical sidekick. I'm Don Quixote in the whole relationship tilting on windmills and whatnot. But so Rude Pug is because he's a sweet dog, but he's rude. Like he does not respect space. I will often wake up in the middle of the night. And it sounds like there's an old man in my bedroom noisily eating a bowl of chili, but that's just...
Next to his pug.
Yes, that's just Sancho licking his feet very rudely and loudly, so that's how I...
The second dog in the department with a full name,
yes.
Richard Witter's dog, is Winston Churchill.
Yes,
so.
both ridiculous-looking animals, by the way. Winston Churchill is a Japanese chin. So he has hydrocephaly and then a very small face, big buggy eyes, like the pug.
This was only apropos because I got a stupid question answered on Deadspin, and I'm way too proud to have got called out. Could your dog win the hot dog eating contest that they have every year?
I would say he would give it, both of them actually, Sancho or a French bulldog named Kizzy, either of them would give like a really honest try, but choke themselves to death in the process of trying to eat all the hot dogs.
That was brought up in the answer. A hot dog is a strange food considering it's basically the size of an esophagus.
Yes.
Why they made it that exact dimension is kind of boggling.
I have never thought of it that way. I knew it was always like hot dogs were always like a choking hazard for kids. But I didn't think of it like somebody sat down, you know what's about this? I should make this the same diameter as an esophagus.
Oscar Mayer secretly hated children and small dogs, apparently.
So it's made out of butts and it'll choke you to death. So that's great. That's what you want in food, really. Lethality and butts.
There you go. But... In addition to Pug owners, also associate producer for Dungeons & Dragons, a lifelong gamer.
Indeed.
And U.S. Army retired.
U.S. Army retired, that is correct.
I wanted to ask about that, about perhaps, we haven't actually talked about this on air, certainly, but gaming and military, if you did any amount of that while you were still in the military? Did the gaming career happen after the military?
No, so I was an avid player of D&D up until 2nd edition, okay? Because that was about the time I was graduating high school or going into high school, and I didn't like 2nd edition. I've said this before. I didn't like 2nd edition for what some might consider a dumb reason. And that is because they renamed demons and devils Batizu and Tanari.
Yeah.
And growing up, my mom was constantly on the bandwagon, like, it's going to make you worship the devil. So I saw that as TSR kowtowing to my mom specifically, and it hurt my feelings. So I didn't like it, didn't play it for a little while. I got into some other systems, and then I joined the Army, started traveling a lot.
A much different system, the Army.
Yes,
Different kind of system.
It's a completely different system. No, gaming is actually really widespread in the Army. I knew every duty station I was ever at, and I was at a lot of them. I knew of people that had a D&D game going on.
Yeah.
Since I've been here, actually, right after I started here, there was a sergeant who was deployed to Kuwait, and he said, hey, you know, I've just did this presentation he worked in operations, and he did a whole PowerPoint slide presentation on why D&D is good for soldiers as an activity.
Sure.
And it was fantastic. So sent him a bunch of stuff, and he was very happy, and everyone walked away satisfied from that. But yeah, actually, the last time I played D&D on active duty, like with active duty folks, was in 2009 when I was in Iraq. Like we would play in the chapel. Now it was not super regular, and it got canceled a lot.
Sure.
But periodically,
So it was a D&D campaign.
it was a D&D campaign, exactly. But yeah, we would get together and play. I knew tons of people that played D&D when I was in the Army, so that was really nice. And I was, while I was on active duty, in my free time, I was working with organized play, with Living Greyhawk, Living Forgotten Realms. Then I actually started with the Adventurers League right as I was retiring from active service.
Nice. Were you working with Chris Tulloch back then, or connected with Chris Tulloch?
Yeah,
He was involved.
I've known Chris for probably since like 2005.
Okay.
2004.
Yeah. Wow.
2005, I think. But it's been a minute. But yeah, I originally applied to Chris for the job of resource manager with the Adventurers League. Then it transitioned to Chris Lindsay. At that point, I was in graduate school and looking to, be all successful and professional post-military. Went into a career of healthcare administration.
Yes.
And that kind of ground me down. So I was actually on a hiatus when this job came open, and I applied, and now I'm talking to you good people.
And you're doing healthcare in the military, right?
Yes, I did healthcare. I was a combat medic, an occupational therapy technician, and then after like 2003, I worked in operations, so plans, training, stuff like that. Yeah.
And what were your bases that you were stationed at? You mentioned Iraq, but...
Yeah, so I did basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I don't recommend Fort Sill, Oklahoma at all, even a little bit. It is, it's so bad. That is the home of the field artillery, by the way, so it is a very loud place, like very, very loud place to be.
Yeah.
It is also either freezing cold or like Satan's anus. It is just hot and muggy and terrible. I did not like it very much. San Antonio, Texas, for my advanced training.
All right.
Also hotter than the gates of hell, but much more culture
Yeah.
than Fort Sill. My first duty station was in Korea.
Ooh.
I was in 2nd Infantry Division in Korea. And then I went to Fort Hood, Texas for a couple years. Then I went to occupational therapy school, back to San Antonio, to Fort Carson, Colorado, to Germany. While I was in Germany, when I was in Texas, I went to Guantanamo Bay for 6 months as part of a humanitarian operation down there. Went to Kosovo while I was stationed in Germany. I did a 3-month stint in Turkey while I was stationed in Germany. Came back to Fort Lewis, Washington, which is how I became acquainted with Washington. Deployed to Kuwait for almost a year in 2003. And then back to Iraq again, in 2009. Then back to Korea right after that. Then Fort Knox, Kentucky. And then my fun meter was pretty much pegged. So, I submitted for retirement and moved out to go to grad school at the University of Washington.
That's quite the whirlwind Army career.
Whirlwind tour. For a while, I was moving like every 18 months.
I thought the usual stint was 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. That's how I grew. I was Army brat, so I remember it was always 3 years, 3 years, 3 years.
It used, so like when I first signed up in 1993, people tended to stay in one place longer.
Yeah.
As of like the war on terror, like that sped up a lot because you had people constantly rotating in and out of theater. You had people getting moved around because their career progression and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the Army says they like to try and keep you there for like 3 to 4 years. But in that 3 to 4 years, you're going to do multiple jobs.
Sure.
So there's a lot of the only constant is change. So.
Well, as always, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And we're glad to have you as part of Dungeons and Dragons now.
I thoroughly enjoy being part of the team.
So, kind of going back though, you were doing a lot of gaming while you were stationed abroad everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Luke Gygax, he's obviously doing Founders and Legends last year. I believe it's getting together for this year later on, but yeah, he's active reserve, I believe, as well.
Yep,
so.
I believe I talked to him briefly at GaryCon. I think Luke actually enlisted as an infantryman on active duty right around the same time that I enlisted in active duty, and then he was smarter than me, so he became an officer and transitioned to the reserve, and I think he works in logistics? I don't know, it's good stuff. But
Something.
yeah.
I know he helps fight fires in California.
He does do that, yes. Lots of fires.
In any case, also lead designer for Gardens of Fog, which was I'm going to read the introduction here. This is a Take This adventure. What is, briefly, and I know some folks might already be aware of Gardens of Fog and the Dragon Talk, but quickly, can you give us a little bit about Take This and the Gardens of Fog?
Yes, so Take This, I actually heard about Take This the first time when I was at at PAX West several years ago. And there was a very nice person who had this, it looked like a knight with wings and a big shield. And it was, like from Legend of Zelda, I think. Take This. And they had a quiet space, and they had mental health professionals who were there to just kind of talk to people who maybe were overwhelmed. I don't know if any of you have been to any of the Penny Arcade shows. They're a lot of fun. But holy shit, is that a lot of stimulation to kind of take in at one time. There's 800,000 people and lights and noise, and it can be a bit much. So they offer a space to kind of decompress and kind of get your bearings. And I was put in touch with Dr. Rafael Bocamazzo. I hope I'm saying Dr. B's last name right.
I think that's why he goes by Dr. B.
I think it is, but I didn't want to short shrift him. Was introduced to him by Mr. Greg Tito, who Dr. B was trying to put together an adventure to help benefit Take This. Dr. B said, hey, I know this clown named Bill, and not only does he enjoy Dungeons & Dragons, but he also has a background in healthcare and some mental health experience specifically. So Dr. B and I met up at the Big Mox out in Bellevue, Mox Sporting House?
Mox Sporting House?
Mox Sporting House. We sat down and we chatted, and we came up for the bones of Gardens of Fog, which is basically the party is venturing into the mindscape of a friend who is being antagonized, victimized, if you will, by a supernatural entity. So it deals with existing mental health issues, like organically what we would experience in the really real world, and then you layer the fantasy on top of that, and the players are not so much there to fix their friend, and it's not like a sitcom where 30 minutes later and everything's okay. But they're there to kind of cut off that supernatural influence so that their friend can keep healing, recovering normally the way you do with mental health. That was one of the things that Dr. B and I really wanted to get out of the adventure, is that mental health isn't as simple as I took a pill and hooray. It's literally a lifelong process of therapy or kind of support activities that you do. Like for me, D&D has been for years a therapeutic activity, which is something I learned about as an occupational therapy technician. So that's kind of where my grounding in that came in. But yeah, we wanted to present. We wanted to first and foremost, we wanted to destigmatize mental health. The fact that whether it's in media, popular media, news media, saying, "Oh, that dude's crazy." Statistically, people with severe mental health issues are not the bulk of the people committing violent acts in the world. It's just everyday people with everyday issues. So it's what that does is folks who might ordinarily want to seek treatment won't, because they don't want to have that label. That happened a lot when I was in the service, because there's it's changing, but there was a mentality of like suck it up. Like always, your knees hurt, suck it up. You're sad, suck it up. And if you sought out mental health services, you were perceived as weak. Like you can't handle your shit. What's wrong with you? And that is, in both short term and especially the long term, is not healthy. Like that's not.
I can't imagine it would be.
That's not a good. That leads to if you see a surge in domestic violence, drug use, those are all kind of coping mechanism, or either symptoms or a coping mechanism of a mental health issue that's not being appropriately addressed. I myself have been diagnosed with anxiety, with depression, with PTSD, and then looking back, I was like, man, I smoked for like 12 years. Well, why was I smoking? Well, at first it was to make my parents mad, but then it was a way to help manage my anxiety.
Yeah.
And then some behaviors I had at that point in time. It was centered around how am I coping with what's going on in my head, because I wasn't taking the time to sit down and address it. So that was what Dr. B and I really wanted to take out of this. And it was tough because it's not light and fun subject matter. It's like, hey, it is serious, and we wanted to present it in a way where folks could play and enjoy the escapism of D&D and still have an opportunity to kind of get some knowledge and understanding on the side. And for those who've played it, I really hope that's the experience that you've had.
It does seem like a delicate design challenge to face. And I do know that the folks have been playing it online. Obviously, Tales from the Mist, and I believe Rivals of Waterdeep played it through as well.
There was another one in LA. I cannot remember all the different streaming groups. Hyper RPG. They played as well. And they all did a fantastic job. They each took it and kind of owned it and made it their own thing. And if there's one thing I could tell the folks who watch this, is that what we've kind of laid out there, you could please customize that to the needs of your folks, whether it's the level of intensity that you want to have them experience. Like if you're the DM, you know your players way better than I ever would. So, don't try to overload them, but, also try to make it a little bit of like they walk away like, wow, that was interesting and insightful. But most of all, I want them to have fun with it. And then walk away with that nugget of like, you know what, if I know someone who's struggling with mental health issues, then encourage them to seek help, or just, be someone that they can talk to and not be judgmental about.
And the adventure does have information on that at the end, which some resources for finding help or services.
That if something surfaces out of this, there's there's a whole appendix in the back of varying resources for mental health. That Dr. B was just incredible. He put all of that together. There is kind of clinical bits mixed in throughout the game text, kind of break down and explain in language that I couldn't quite master, like what the point of the different encounters are and what we were trying to have folks get out of them without being too dictatorial, because
So really quickly, I encourage folks to please take a look at it. Gardens of Fog. Take this adventure. It is available on the DM's Guild.
All proceeds benefit Take This. I don't get a dime.
No, yes, an important call out. The proceeds do benefit the Take This nonprofit. It's a Tier 1 adventure for 5 third-level characters, optimized for 5 third-level characters.
I would like to point out that the incredible TK from Tales from the Mist, she actually leveled it, or they actually leveled it up to like 9?
Oof.
Yeah, just went and adapted it beautifully. They did an amazing job, and thank you.
So yes, shout out as well. The designers Dr. B we mentioned, and Hannah Rose as well. And Rich Lescaflair was doing
Rich
layout
Lescaflair,
design.
fantastic layout.
Yes, I found it very beautiful. Just taking a look at it from a visual approach, much
Excellent.
less content approach. So. I've been neglecting to mention, and it's already going on, we are doing 2 raffles in chat at the moment, though. So thanks for everyone for entering. We are giving away, let's see if I can get it on screen. We've got a Dungeon Master's screen. I'm always a second behind. I'm on tape delay, so it's weird. We've got a Dungeon Master's screen that is using Ghosts of Saltmarsh material, and because Hillary Ross is awesome, she also hooked us up with some Dungeons and Dragons calendars. Fortunately, these are for 2020, so they're not already half used up for 2019. So they're still very useful. So we'll do 2 raffles as we look to do every live stream. The first one is already underway.
I did want to add, too, I would be remiss if I did not give a huge shout out to Hannah Rose for not only doing a fantastic job editing and helping develop the story, but also the mechanical bits at the end with the Psychomancer. That was all Dr. B and Hannah, and she did a fantastic job. And it was incredible to work with her. It was Dr. B as well, both fantastic people.
So we're going to probably run a D&D Rewind here in a minute. It's just a couple minutes. But when we come back, what we wanted to do was jump on D&D Beyond, kind of look specifically at some of adventure design, I guess, functions, how you do it, how you create monsters, and then working with existing monster templates to create a new monster. As you mentioned, you can customize, take this, or really any adventure. So how might you do so if you've got a particular monster you want to create or modify for your home game? So let's run a D&D Rewind, and when we come back, we'll share our screen here. Hopefully nothing weird pops up, and we'll do a little bit of monster design just for fun. All right, so stay tuned, everyone, and I'm looking at Pelham.
I have every confidence in every single one of you that we will be seen through this. You've never steered me wrong, and you've always done your part.
Do we believe Helmsman Vinley is the one that steers the ship, Captain? But we understand what you mean.
It's a metaphorical. It's a metaphor. What's your name?
Gunner's calling me. Yeah.
As he comes back down, did you say it? Did you say it? You fucking said it. You're my hero, man.
It's double rations today, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, double rations. As big as you want, pal.
5-6 foot thick. This leg just lifts out of the water. Sorry, what are you doing, Flick?
I said to Jagsy,
maybe 2 barrels.
I think we're going to need a bigger barrel.
All right, well, let's do this then.
Well,
An uzu.
An uzu. I love uzo. Delicious. No, it's not. Don't. It's yeah, good. Dave. well, we've killed him. We've killed them, chat. They're dead. That's it. Killed them dead.
Your response just being don't was
I was trying really hard this whole campaign to find ways to kill 8, and it turns out it's not attacking them with powerful creatures.
The gullet?
Yeah, gullet.
Larynx? I like gullet. All right. Chopping at the gullet, Dark Winter's Bite shines.
Chopping at the gullet, Dark Winter's Bite. Going for a stab in the night. Sorry, you just had a cadence that was
Yeah, chopping at the gullet, Dark Winter's Night. Sounds like a hip hop thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to work.
Just the two of us.
They are talking of our souls and how we are free game. I do not suggest this is going well.
And it's you feel Alzra, it's trying to drag you now.
What would it cost to grant safe passage through the ironclads? We would like safe passage through.
And safe passive. You're dabbing.
You're dabbing.
What?
Not quite. You're panic dabbing. Panic dab.
That's Rhiannon. Rhiannon is dabbing, not Elzra. Elzra is not dabbing. Rhiannon is panic dabbing.
All right, we're back. I'm looking at my computer because we're going to do a little bit of design practice here. So, Bill, one of the things that you created for the adventure were some new monsters.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the back. They're in the appendix for the creature statistics. I wanted to kind of dive into the monsters you created, not just as they relate to the adventure and how you went about them, but just sort of the process for folks that are interested in creating or modifying monsters.
Certainly.
For their own game. So we're looking at page 11, Appendix A. This is the Anxiety Personification. So how did you, what was your starting point for this monster? How did you go about it?
So my starting point was for that particular encounter, role-play encounter, they were going to be confronting a being that kind of represented the friend, the individual that they're trying to help. It's representing a personification of their anxiety, and then it was able to. I wanted it to be able to like kind of create smaller, like pull information from the characters, and then have kind of smaller personifications of their anxiety for them to deal with. Like if combat was the way that the party decided they wanted to go with part of it. So the first thing I did was look for an existing monster that did what I wanted the creature to do, which I wanted something reasonably tough that maybe had some ranged, like an area-based attack, and that was really all I had to start with. So what I did was I went on to D&D Beyond, and I said I'm looking for things with because this is for third level characters. I said I want CR1 creature. So I narrowed the search to CR1, went down, and what I settled on was a copper dragon wormling.
Okay. So I'm on D&D Beyond now. The only reason it's going slow is we're using Pelham's ancient laptop, the ancient copper dragon.
Yes.
So we are looking into the statistics here. So you went in here, you found a challenge rating creature that you thought was appropriate. And then where did you go from here to sort of modify things?
From here, because like the creature's type has like a mechanical bearing on the game, obviously it being a dragon didn't really work. So the first thing I did was change it from being a medium dragon to being a medium aberration. Okay. Because it's an aberrant creation.
I'm sort of recreating it as we go along.
Sweet. Yeah.
Oops. People can also see how bad of a typist I am.
Lovely. And so the next kind of important flavor-wise thing is if you look under alignment, the alignment there is chaotic good. It is neither chaotic nor good. I felt that neutral evil was kind of the most appropriate expression of what it would be like. That is, it just wants to be nasty regardless of consequences. So the next stuff, I don't know where all the different speed and all that stuff is in this.
Oh, we go down here.
Hooray! So, strength, con, blah, blee, blue, blee, blah. Where is the speed? Haslair?
Oh, we've got movement down here.
Yes. So, 30 feet of walk, 30 feet of climb, 60 feet of fly. I thought that was ideal.
Okay.
So that way it could be like if someone's fear was something that was flying around, boom, we got that covered. If you wanted it to be super creepy and climb up walls or trees or whatever, then boom, you've got that taken care of right off the bat. The armor class is unchanged. The hit points, I did not change the stats. Because it is a dragon, it has bonuses to saving throws. I left that in place. I left its skills in place. I actually left it has a damage immunity to acid. I left that in place.
So the exercise in a way is, hey, if you would like to create a monster, one of the easiest things, well, not easiest, but stablest things to do is find an existing monster that basically is that level of tough or does basically what you want.
Yes.
So you're not recreating numbers.
Yes, that you have said it beautifully, sir. I've actually, whether I was writing for the Adventures League or pretty much anything I've ever done, I've never actually, for something that's been published, outside of a home game, I've never actually created mechanically just sat down and created a monster that then went into an adventure. I've always done what you just said, which is I find something that does what I want, that already exists. I maybe tweak a couple things, usually cosmetic, here and there. And the other thing is I just changing the description of the actions goes a long way towards like, what? That was a what? So in this case, it's a copper dragon wormling. I kept the bite attack, but instead of a breath weapon, I called it Expel Neurosis. So it basically is kind of summoning up the character's neuroses and then directing them in kind of a physical manifestation. So instead of acid breath and slowing breath, I went with corrosive thoughts and mind fog.
I never learned to touch type.
You should have learned to touch type. I took a typing class in high school, and it paid off handsomely.
I did too. It never stuck. And we won't go into to all the changes, but yeah, I did want to just walk folks through your process for modifying a monster so that it would fit best into the adventure scenario that you have in mind.
The other kind of important things that went into it, my decision to kind of use this creature to be an anxiety personification, was it also has, I didn't want it to be easily defeated by, like, oh, it lost its sight. It has dark vision, it has blind sight, and most importantly, it has telepathy. So I didn't have to sweat any languages. It could just communicate into your noggin directly, which I thought was super important for something that is in your head trying to manipulate you.
That's a good point. It's trying to scare me, but I don't understand what it's saying.
Exactly, which can be frightening, but way scarier if it's just something booming into your head, messing with you. So yeah, that was the anxiety personification, basically a copper dragon wormling with a name change and the abilities reflavored, and then the text in the adventure obviously reflects that. But yeah, that was it, and that way I've got something that's interesting that kind of fits the scene that I'm trying to tell. And I don't have to worry, is the thing that I just am working with, is it something that's horribly broken and is either going to be terribly inefficient and boring, or is it just going to murder everyone in the face? Either of those things are pretty unsatisfying.
Right. Yes, you can make the most effective monster in the world, but is it balanced? Does it play well at the table?
Is it fun?
Is it fun? Yes. So that was sort of just a brief look into some of your design processes for this adventure. What I thought we could do is start from scratch and do the same thing for an entirely new monster.
I see.
And let's see if, again, creations, we're going to create a monster. So while this thing is spinning,
because remember, it's Pelham's computer and is as slow as it can possibly be.
There we go. So if any of these strike your fancy, let me know how you might go about doing so. So my original thought was, do we want a new adversary for Gardens of Fog? But there's a lot of delicate subject matter. I thought it might be best to maybe just pick something completely out of another field and look at, do we have anything from a military background? A recreation of a memorable sergeant or something along those lines. possibly if you were going to create a rude pug as a monster, how might that appear in the game?
We could do a rude pug.
Or this is the third choice, based on a conversation from yesterday about the Jim Caviezel movie Outlander.
Oh God, the laser dragon.
How would you create a laser dragon?
So I don't know if anyone out there in Twitch land ever listens to the podcast. How did this get made? I highly, if you don't listen to it, if you enjoy film, and I love movies.
I have not heard that, but I'm going to write it. How does this get made?
How did this get made? It has Paul Scheer, who's been in a ton of stuff, very funny. Jason Mantzoukas.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's Raffi from The League. He's in Big Mouth. He's in all kinds of stuff. Also incredibly hilarious. And June Diane Raphael, who's also an actress. She does some voice work. And they usually get like a special guest.
Mm-hmm.
They do it in studio. They go on tour. But they look at just terrible movies and break down like who thought this was a good idea and how did this actually come together.
It seems a bit career limiting if there's a number of producers and directors in Hollywood going, I made that pile of crap that you're making fun of.
They still get work, so it's still like they're doing well. So it's you know it's in fact Paul Scheer has another podcast where he just does like movies that are critically acclaimed and talks about what makes them really good. I digress. And in fact, I forgot what the hell I was trying to say before I launched into my thing about how did this get made.
We've got three choices. We could kick it to chat to vote on which one they think is the one they want best. So we've got a military sergeant, or a rude pug, or from Outlander inspired.
Yes, yes.
The laser dragon, the Morwin, was it called? Something along those lines.
So that movie. It hasn't been on How Did This Get Made yet. I'm lobbying for it to be there, and I do not want to disparage the work of the good people, because I'm sure they're good people who made that film, but holy shit, is that a terrible movie. I hope that's okay for me to say on here, because it happened. But it is...
It's Pug by a landslide, by the way.
Oh, well then there we go. I was going to go Laser Dragon, but yes.
We'll come back. We'll do Laser Dragon.
We'll do, if we have time permitting, we'll do Laser Dragon, and then after that maybe we can make the space sword out of a junky spaceship that kills the Laser Dragon.
See, that sounds awesome to me.
Yeah, it sounds awesome, but how you screw up Vikings, Laser Dragons, and fucking spaceships, and then that's a boring piece of shit. How do you do that? I don't know. That takes talent in and of itself.
I would imagine my defense would be, here's a whole bunch of genres that sound awesome. In execution, maybe it would work best for an animated thing, because then you can make it look and feel the way that you have it in your mind. If you're trying to put it together with set design.
That's true.
And
they did a lot of
Vikings don't look right, and now the sci-fi doesn't look right.
That was the thing. The Vikings had the worst. Do you know what a merkin is?
Yes.
Yeah, so imagine just face merkins, just the worst Viking beards that you could imagine. You could clearly tell those men didn't have beards. Suspension of disbelief shattered. They also wasted William Hurt in that movie. I was flabbergasted that apparently he was like, well, I've got to make rent. So he sat down and did, oh my God. Anyway, I could talk about it for an hour. You people don't want to hear that. What you want to hear is how to make a rude pug.
A rude pug.
So what I would start with...
Should we jump into the create a homebrew monster, or should we look at the monsters and see which one to
Let's
start with?
look at monsters because I would agonize over creating one all alone. So I think the best place to start for a rude pug is one of two places. One place, and that is Fiend.
Oh.
If you could go to Fiend.
Yes. Not what I thought you were going to say.
I know, I'm very tricky that way. So let's filter that out. Yeah. So let's see. How challenging do we want the pug to be? Audience, how challenging should the pug be? Should it be a suitable challenge for a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? Please don't say tier 4 party, because it's hard to make anything challenging for a tier 4 party.
Yeah, we are moving into Descent into Avernus, so...
CR32, no.
Yeah.
Is that Lisa?
That's Lisa. How about a tier 2? Something level.
I like it.
Higher,
Tier 2.
Upper.
Tier 2, yes.
All right.
So for tier 2,
something between challenge rating 5 and 10.
Yeah. Look up. Yes. This is good. Okay.
Boom.
All right. And then it's going to go alphabetically.
It can, or we can do it by.
No, this is good. This is
Okay.
good. Scroll down. Scroll down. Scroll. Ah! I want you to click on Caneloth.
All right. Ooh. Oh, all right. Yeah.
So we
Let's
scroll
see-
down
see
a
what
bit
you
more.
did there.
Yeah. So the Caneloth, for those of you who are not aware, fantastic. I think Yugoloths are entirely underused. But the Caneloth is like an ugly demon dog.
Right.
And the thing that I think makes it puggish is the fact that it has that long prehensile tongue.
Yeah.
My dog, remember his name is Sancho, my dog has a tongue that is approximately 3/4 of the length of his body. He can actually lick, it's not that long. He has a very long tongue though, and if there's one thing that dog loves to do, it's eat. So, also very good at defending the home front until an intruder actually enters. These are way better at that. So, I would.
So we picked the Caneloth as
Yes.
our starting template. Should we jump into?
Yes, let's jump into the.
Let's create.
Build a
start with that.
creature.
Create a monster, and then we'll set that as our template. Start modifying it from there. Come here, you.
And Lisa, I want you to behave yourself in the chat right now. I know that you're sad. You lost your belt of greatness to Kate Welch yesterday playing Lords of Waterdeep.
Oh no.
But you need to be gracious in defeat like you are not in victory, because you were pretty with victory.
I don't know how that belt even got away from my desk. I had that belt.
I blame Lisa. I actually have no idea if it was Lisa. All right, so Caneloth. So yeah, first and most importantly, it's the rude pug.
It's the rude pug.
Not a pig.
Oh.
Not a pig, rude pug. Rude pig sounds fun too, but outside the scope of this exercise.
So this is Sancho?
Sancho.
Okay.
All right. Version 1. So let's go to type.
Okay.
Start with type.
Type. Right now it's Fiend.
Subtype Yugoloth. So
Okay.
I'm thinking, and audience, you can either back me up or not with this. I'm thinking it stays a Fiend.
Okay.
I had thought about maybe a Beast, but that seems a little too on the nose.
That's where I thought you were going at first.
Yeah, that's I tricked you.
The Caneloth fits nicely.
It does, but we could ditch the monster subtype of Yugoloth. So what does Twitch think? Fiend? No Fiend.
The other choices, yes, Beast,
No.
Fiend, Monstrosity.
I had thought of Monstrosity actually, but I'm liking Fiend because again the Fiend carries with it certain the rude pug being susceptible to certain things and immune to others that it wouldn't get.
Is there a subtype?
No subtype, just a straight up Fiend.
All right, straight up Fiend.
Straight up Fiend.
Size, still medium?
Still medium. It would be the largest, most terrifying pug in the world. However, just because it's a Fiend doesn't mean, even though Fiend connotes evil, I think we make it neutral.
Okay. It's pretty self-serving, or random, I suppose. How about some of the special traits? What about the Caneloth do you want to keep, modify, remove?
Actually, the magic weapons, fine. Uncanny senses, that is, I like uncanny senses because Sancho has a tremendous level of alertness, especially where food is concerned. What I would do is rename Dimensional Lock to like something funny that has to do with not letting people leave until it gets fed. like
Hunger lock.
Yes, like hunger lock, food prison. I don't know, something along those. It would take me a while to like several days of iterating to come up with something.
So is the until it's fed an actual part of the description?
Yeah.
Okay. Till it is fed.
And leaving the language that vague means the DM can be like, no, you've totally not fed it enough. Like, you can't just offer, like, here's a day's worth of trail rations, because that would be wholly insufficient. You would probably have to feed the gnome. I'm not saying you had to, but it would probably be easier.
I keep typing in pig.
I know.
I want to say...
I know. Rude pig.
Okay. Anything else here in the traits we want to...
No, I think the rest of it looks good. I want it to be resistant to magic and immune to non-magical damage. That's great.
Okay.
Let's go to action descriptions.
All right, so how about actions here?
So multi-attack, bite, claws, that can all stay just as is. We have time constraints. I might think of a more interesting name for bite.
Okay.
So like the Big Nipper or something like that to denote, chomping. But what we definitely have to rename is...
nip has a different connotation.
It does. And Shelley Mazinoble and Greg Tito, notorious for phrasing. Bart and I, we don't play that game. Chomp, I like it.
Damn it. I will spell this correctly at some point.
I believe in you.
Tongue? Is tongue still good?
No, tongue has to be something else because it needs to be like the... Because the tongue shoots out. How far does it shoot out? 30 feet?
30 feet.
30 feet. It grapples, pulls you in, and then chomps. So I would call it the... I'm just spitballing, like the snack grabber or the chow snatcher. Or, again, this is something that I would just come up with a piddly name and then I would iterate on it until I got something that I really liked.
We'll go with snack grab.
I like snack grab. Oh, excuse me.
All right. So we're making some good flavorful changes here. Is there anything about Rude Pug that we want to completely add mechanically?
We need to add a reaction, actually. And we're going to call that, let's go up and copy Hunger Lock. Just copy paste that in. We can just use that format. And we will, and we will call this ability, this will be Ineffable Stench.
Aw.
I love my dog to death, but between his farts and just his face, which as just a baseline level of stinking, despite how much I clean it, he's both noisy and he is both noisy and smelly.
Okay.
Ineffable Stench. So the Ineffable Stench is going to be something like what you face with like a trog that I let. No, it's going to be a reaction. So we're going to do a reaction like it's got to be in response to something. So basically, if it gets maybe once per turn when it gets attacked, it emits a noxious poot towards the attacker.
No, I'm just throwing it in here.
Yeah.
When attacked, oops, emits a
noxious poot.
Stream of...
No, noxious poot, man.
I thought poop.
No, poot. P-O-O-T. It's a puff of noxious gas.
Noxious poot.
Noxious poot. We could say, keeping it in line with the other stuff, maybe it's like a DC... We could say it's like a DC 14 Constitution saving throw. Or you are... You have the poisoned condition.
Okay.
And then we can add to that.
And yes, so again, kind of keeping in the spirit of using what we have, we would find something written in a similar construct, and just put it in, change the
Yes.
language.
Like for this, I would basically, granted we can't really do that right now, but for this, I would basically go find another creature on D&D Beyond that has a reaction that I like, copy it, that's at the right CR, copy it, boom, drop it in, and rename it something silly, because, you know, that's fun. And we're not going to do legendary actions or lair actions, but let's give it one more. It's got a reaction. Let's give it one more. Scroll up just a little bit. A special trait. So let's give it one more special trait.
Okay.
And that special trait will be, oh man, distracting snorts.
Okay. And what does distracting snorts do?
So distracting snorts is the first time that you get within, let's say, 10 feet. First time you get within 10 feet of the rude pug, you have to make a wisdom saving throw, or
why is this not?
Or something happens. Audience,
we'll type it in as it is.
what should happen if you fail your saving throw?
Within 10
Because I'm drawing a blank.
feet.
Yep. Because
Okay,
it's,
PC.
I think, confusion. Do you guys like confusion? Is that good?
Charmed.
Charmed? I like it. For charmed until you make the saving throw. Because it's just, the snorting is just that adorable. I like charmed. Whoever said that, was it you, Pelham?
It was.
Who says you're a hot mess?
Life scribe. Give it to life scribe.
A life scribe.
All right. Well, I will stop fighting with the formatting of
That's
Pelham's
fine.
computer here.
That is fine.
And yeah, there we go. We're getting close to the top of the hour here. So are we?
And we're just about done. The only thing that I would
We
do
good
from
with
here
Sancho?
is come up with a good description. So in my head, as I think of a rude pug, the AC works, the hit points, the speed, all that stuff, that is all good. Yeah, immune to poisoned. Well, unless he eats cat poop, then Sancho gets just really sick. But that all works. I would just give it a description. So in my head, it's a medium-sized pug, a kind of a brindle with big googly eyes and like kind of the long flopping tongue. And even though it doesn't have a fly speed, I really dig the thought of like little vestigial wings and the curly tail and the flappy velveteen ears, like. Something big and goofy that while it could be potent in combat, you could also have a really fun, you could primarily have a really fun RP encounter with it. But then if somebody's disrespectful and you want to, kick their ass, then, the rude pug can do that as well. So.
The rude pug.
And it would be ravenous. Like it would never not be hungry.
Ravenously. Until fed. Well, we'll work on that.
Yes.
We're throwing down ideas here.
It is.
So it's a googly-eyed pug with brindled fur. By its charming demeanor, the rude pug can attack ravenously
Until fed.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, hey, that was great. We're here almost at the top of the hour, so this timed out perfectly. We'll have to save the laser dragon from Outlander for the
We
next
will have to save the laser dragon.
And now I know a little bit more about using this laptop specifically. and to never do that again. Well, Bill, thank you again for wasting an hour of your day.
Not
with
wasted
us
at all.
and,
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And again, at the beginning of the live stream, we were talking about Gardens of Fog. It is a D&D adventure available on the DM's Guild, with all proceeds benefiting the Take This nonprofit. So please do consider picking it up. I picked it up myself. And,
Thank you.
Yes, looking forward to running that a little later in the year. I'm going to be running it over the Thanksgiving holidays, actually. So
fantastic.
Stay tuned for Heroes of the Vale. We'll kick over there shortly. Congratulations to our raffle winners. As always, thanks to everyone tuning in as well. Thank you to our followers and subscribers, of course. Thank you to our moderators for everything that you guys do. And we will be back next week, I believe, with Jeremy Crawford has escaped the castles of Europe and is back with us then. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.